Well, guys, on this episode, we have our friend Scott Dastrop. Is that
Dastrop.
Dastrop. Welcome to Illinois.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
You want to start that over and like say his name right, maybe?
No. I like it. I like it.
Dastrop. That's not a
Dastrop.
Dastrop sounds a little more.
I've been called, like people will see, like, even if I have a name tag on, they'll be like, Scott Dahlstrom. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, I know it's a weird name.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had Victor messed up, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it's happened. But you are from Utah.
Yes.
Are you in Salt Lake? Or are you?
I was in Salt Lake. I'm
Okay.
just a little bit south of Salt Lake.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So you have over 4 billion views on the content that you've written and directed.
And a dollar for each one of those views.
A dollar,
as well.
yes.
Yeah, they do.
Very
They
rich.
buy the
They give me
per view.
$1 per view, which is a pretty sweet
Well,
deal.
but on top of that, it is millions of dollars of revenue that you've helped bring into different businesses through the ads and the
Yes.
campaigns that you've been a part of. You've also been, you worked with Purple Mattress. You were, actually, can you tell me that story? Because we were talking about it before. You initially started as their Kickstarter guy.
Yep.
And then transition into in-house. So can you just kind of tell me about that process? And if anyone doesn't know what Purple Mattress is, Kiko, can you just quickly bring that up?
I was going to say maybe crawl out from under a rock.
Yeah. I mean, those ads were everywhere.
Back in the day, those ads were everywhere, and it was really fun because you'd go like checking at a hotel,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, "All right, what's your email, Mr. Dastrop?" And you give it to them. They're like, "Oh, like the mattress company?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah,
That's the one.
And they'd be like, "I love those ads." And I'm like,
Thank you.
"I make those ads," and they're like, "You're the one."
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fun time.
Oh, I
Did
bet.
you kiss
Yeah.
the hand or something at that
I'm
point?
like, I make those ads.
Yes. Is that, Kiko, did you have to pull it up?
Yep.
What are we watching here? Ah, yes.
Did you know that the wrong mattress protector can ruin the feel of your mattress? Hi, I'm a mom. One of the hardest jobs out there. This is Junior. Junior's a sweetheart.
This one doesn't focus so much
but he
on
can
the
wreak havoc on our
mattress. Well, it does
mattresses.
match it later, right?
Which is
we'll,
why
we'll
I
stop
got
it
the
there for now,
Purple
Kiko. This is like a
Mattress Protector.
4-minute video.
Yeah.
I do want to go
Like
back to
sleeping
it
on it.
and
Yeah.
kind of break it down a little bit. But can you just start out with that story of how
Was
you,
that all on location, by the way?
That was all on location. Yep,
On
up
location,
in the
yeah.
Uintas.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Can
Back
you,
over to you.
Can you just give a introduction of how you started
Yeah.
working for them, and then also that Kickstarter campaign, where you were at in your life at that point?
Yeah. So, So I was like a Kickstarter guy in Utah for a long time. Like people would come to me with tiny, tiny little budgets, and they'd say, "Hey, we've got this product we want to make a video for Kickstarter, but we have like no budget because we don't even have a product in existence yet, right?" So
Oh, wow. That early
most of
on.
these people were just self-funding these cheap
Yeah.
videos.
Thus why they're on Kickstarter.
And thus the reason that they're on Kickstarter. Yes. And so so I got very good at stretching those small budgets as far as possible, right?
Yeah.
So one of the groups of people that came to me was a guy named Alex MacArthur and a guy named Dan Bischoff. And they had a robe company that they wanted to kickstart. It was like manly robes, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And so we made just this super goofy, dumb little video in like one of their, condos in Utah, and they paid me like $400, and it was just me and a camera, and it was just dumb.
Wow.
We got there, we had no plan. We're just like, okay, we're gonna shoot some dumb stuff, and I guess they remembered that because Alex MacArthur and Dan Bischoff both went on to work at Purple. And as they were looking for people to bring into the team, it was a really small team at the time, they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, would you want to come do some videos for Purple?" And we did just a series of really inexpensive videos because they were like, "Scott's the cheap video guy." And so I did. I got my friend Spencer, the mustache scientist guy that half the people love him, half the people like freaked out by him. It's okay. He's jarring, but I love him. But we made some videos and they actually worked really well. And they were kind of like, "Wow, you did that with like, $5,000-$6,000.
Yeah.
Made 6, unique videos." And And so, yeah, they had me do their Kickstarter campaign, and it funded, and they were super happy with it. And so the owners were like, "Can we just hire you?" And I was poor, so I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, you can."
Yeah.
And
Wait,
and
you'll bring me money if
Yeah.
I come and
it's like,
do
so
this
a
stuff for
regular
you.
paycheck. I don't have to fight for these $2,000 Kickstarter. So I was super, super excited to join the team. But even at that point, we had no idea how successful the company would, eventually become. That was, it ended up being like kind of a majorly life-changing opportunity for me that I just didn't expect. And it's all because I showed up to that guy's house and filmed this stupid
$400 road video.
silly little
Yeah.
road video.
No, that's kind of an interesting thing. Like we kind of maybe fight about this a little bit sometimes, but like the idea of like how you bring like a super budget client like that to the next level.
Yeah.
Like, can you? I have had kind of in my career a hard time, like once you kind of get in with somebody at a certain kind of budget expectation level to kind of, I feel like there's an easy
Bring that value
You
up.
might get pigeonholed into that budget. Like,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But they came back to you and they're just like, here's more money. Can you do more with it? Or what was that?
Yeah.
Or you're like,
I think
that
so.
was just a one-time thing I did then. And
I think the lucky thing about selling a product D2C online and having ads that you can run and you can test and you can see what works is, even if your budget was small, and they're running these ads online, if money is coming back, if those things convert people, then it's easier to say, there was some smart strategy there. There was some smart writing there. Even if we didn't have that big budget, there were things there. There were elements there that were integral to bring in new customers. If you want to increase the look and feel of your brand, that's going to be what takes, more money. And so, because I think you
production
can,
value of
I
it.
think you can make a really effective converting piece for not a lot of money. But it's also, it becomes a question with your client, like, what do you want your brand look and feel to be? Like, how do you want people to feel when they say, you might convince them to buy this thing, but how do you want them to feel about your brand? And I think that's how you kind of like start to make that conversation about like, here's what we could be doing.
Yeah, and you were there at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier to do, if a company, a local company's been in the market for 20, 30, 40 years, they already kind of have an idea of what they want to be or feel like, but you're at the ground level of building this.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about Purple is they were a different company for like years and years before.
Oh, really?
That just hadn't really blown up in the same way. They were relatively, in a very small scale way, successful. It was called My Comfort.
Okay.
And they were around for, I think, like 15 years before. And this was just kind of a step in
just decided to
a different
rebrand.
direction. It was a rebrand. And it ended up like the team of people, all of the different elements, the Harmon brothers and their interaction, Alex MacArthur, Dan, just all the different people they brought in that early period of time, just really like was the secret sauce, all of those people have since gone on to like be massively successful in their own areas outside of Purple. So
Yeah, that's interesting. So I do want to just quickly back up because you do have a pretty interesting story in how you got started even before then with your father. Can you just give a little background into that?
Yeah. So my dad was director of video at Word Perfect. Like if you remember, like Corel Word Perfect.
Can I
way
just
back
stop
in
you
the
for a
day.
sec? How old are you, by the way? Because you seem young,
Yeah,
but you have a 13-year-old.
I do.
So how old are you?
I'm 36 as
36?
of a week ago.
Okay, I figured I thought you were maybe a little younger, but
we are
yeah, you
basically
do.
the same age.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm 36.
Josiah, you can see the years of
28 in
gaffing on
January.
him, though. You look
I
young.
know, it's just the sunken
wear and tear.
eyes, the soulless.
So when you were a kid, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah. So, he was my dad didn't start there. I mean, he was with the same company as a sales rep for years. And it was like when kind of video cameras became more accessible. And so he just bought one, and the company he was working for was like, wow, you really like that video camera? And he's like, yeah, it's kind of fun. So he started just filming little things, and then they were like, you're the video guy. So he ended up being the video guy, video director of video at WordPerfect and Novell, which was like a big software company back in the day in Provo, Utah. And internationally, like they were headquartered there, but huge internationally. And so yeah, I was on, like, they had big budgets, like they were spending like $1 million on shoots. They were like licensing Aerosmith music for their ads.
Wow.
And like they had money, and so he would just send me to these shoots with one of his director friends, Tyler Meeson, who's gone on to like direct some really good Sundance films. And I was just like a grip. Like I just like hold a piece of cardboard or like a reflector and just like stand in a corner, or like bring people their coffees.
Yeah.
And
as like a child, essentially, or like teenage years, or what kind of era
both.
was this for you? Both?
All the way,
Yeah.
So as a kid, it was more just like, grip stuff. And then when I got older, it was like, you're going to drive to the, Starbucks and you're going to get everybody. And so, just different PA work and grip work. And so then afterwards, I served a Mormon mission, like, years and years ago. And when I came home, I didn't have a job. I was a guitar teacher for a while. And somebody was like, can you make an animation? And in After Effects. And I was just like, absolutely, I can. Yes, I 100% know how to do that. And I had never even done anything. I never opened the software. I was like, I went and bought it just so I could do this project.
That's bold.
Wow.
Yeah. So I learned After Effects. I did a bunch of like After Effects kind of like explainer videos for people. Like I just started doing that kind of stuff. And it just kind of evolved. Budgets got bigger. Eventually I got into like filming. I was like, people, it was the same thing. Like, can you film this? And I was like, yeah, I can totally film it. So,
And everything was so accessible too.
Everything was everything was back then it was like, okay, if you got like a Canon 7D, you can do something that looks pretty good for like low budget. So so I just started there, and it was really just trying to help people out. Like it was honestly just trying to like help small businesses out, and it was fun to do. Like I enjoyed the writing process. I enjoyed like adding a little bit of humor to it, like silly, funny little moments that you could kind of pick out. But I did not have big budgets at all. Like, and I was just always like, man, oh man, if I had some money, we could actually do, something interesting. Yeah.
We had someone on recently who said, I think it was Tom. He said something to the fact of, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something to the fact of how the bigger a budget gets, the less creative you become. And it's like the constraints. It was something about the constraints make you be creative, and kind of make you do the best version.
Well, I mean, I kind of felt that again early on that, on a Subaru shoot that I was on, where I was just a lowly PA, and I was looking around the kind of the waste. I was like, it was one of those typical like, you're driving a Subaru through the desert, you're spraying some rocks, you're spraying some dirt, just like straightforward as you can get,
Yeah.
We've never seen this kind of ad before.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the new Subaru. And so I was like watching this, and I was like, they are spending millions on this thing. Like they had a literal like massive, like the biggest RV I've ever seen. It was like the one from the Goofy movie where he like opens it up and it's like chong chong, all the things, the pool slides out. And the biggest RV I've ever seen, and all that it had inside of it were 2 editing computers, and that was it. It was just like much these
so much
companies
production.
so much production waste just to spend the money, just because they had to spend the money.
Wow.
And they even had a helicopter pilot that was on Lord of the Rings. He shot the stuff for Lord of the Rings there, shooting this Subaru thing. And I was just looking around, and I was like, you know what? This isn't that cool.
I think there's a margin for me to make a little money here somewhere.
But I was just kind of like, this isn't that cool. Like, this isn't the kind of thing I want to do. Like, I want to be a part of, if I'm going to get anything out of this job, of course I want people to sell their stuff, because that's what keeps me, them coming back to me. But I want to have a little bit of fun, and I want people
Yeah.
to watch the stuff to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
we're all being exposed to ads all the time. Like we're constantly being inundated. So my theory going into it with Purple was like, instead of just like people laying down on mattresses and being like, oh wow, that's a mattress, and it's so you know,
Yeah.
it's like,
I think you should do something with the makeup industry as well, like Olay, or you know, they need
Yeah,
some
yeah,
help.
yeah.
It's like everything is
I know
the same.
everything is like it's so glossy and it's so.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Cera's most
I
recent
did-
ad
I did see
with
that.
CeraVe was. Pretty
What did you think of
genius.
that?
I loved it.
I didn't
I-
see it.
I loved it, and some of the people that made that were people we had worked with.
I was wondering because it was like similar.
It was Eric Wareheim from Tim and Eric that I was mentioning earlier.
Okay.
So he's a comedian out of LA, and I saw it posted on his account first. He's like, "Look what I made," and it was that ad, and I was just like,
what an interesting choice.
I
I was
know.
just like this, and I thought it was a spoof. Legitimately,
know.
I thought it was a spoof. But, you know, so I do want to just ask quickly, at what point did you? So let me just say this before I ask the question. It's like we are all in this industry, and it's like we end up doing everything, right? So we get somebody to pay us money to do an ad, whatever it is, and we're given $1,000, you know, whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do like half of the jobs because it's not much money, right?
right.
And then so you go along and you get better and better and better. And you bring on more people, you get more money, and then you kind of figure out, okay, I'm actually kind of good at this. You know, I'm actually best behind the camera. I think I'm going to continue doing that. So at what point did you figure out that writing and directing was kind of it for you?
I think that I figured that out at Purple.
At Purple?
So
Yeah.
once
Not before in some of the other Kickstarters? Because you've done a lot of Kickstarters starters as well.
I've done a ton of Kickstarters. But again, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have the experience of being able to know that because I just did have to do
Sure.
everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So
gotcha.
once
Didn't
I
have
got
the
to
luxury
Purple,
of
I didn't have the
having
luxury.
people to do the other things.
Yeah, I didn't. So if I gave something away to, and I've always, you know, I've always heard people say, like, if you're a what is the thing? It's like
Jack of all trades.
yeah, it's
Master
like
of none?
master of none. What's that phrase? I butchered that, but you
Bad
know,
idea.
like that idea of if you are trying to do everything, you're going to do
Yeah.
everything poorly.
Gonna be
Like,
Right.
mediocre,
Right.
yeah.
and so I was very much wanting to prove that wrong, you know, like because like I wanted to legitimately try my best to get really good at all of those areas out of necessity. I
Yeah.
wanted to still produce something good. I didn't want people to be like, you know, oh, you're handling everything. This is going to be a crap product in the end.
Yeah.
But after getting to, you know, coming to Purple and getting opportunities to work with much bigger budgets and other teams of people, and it wasn't so, I think I wasn't so desperate, you know, to have to do that.
Yeah.
I got to take kind of a step back and say, like, you know, what part of this process do I actually want? Like, I'm going to give some things up. And it honestly was kind of hard to give some things up.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
like it was like, you know, because all been part of my creative process. And so it
Yeah.
was kind of hard to give things up. But I was like, you know what? Like, I started to see more benefit in bringing in good people and working with other and like, you know, other creatives and like seeing how they do this and how they do this. And like, we all learn from each other. And I think I became better because, you know, of my experience with like all of these other people.
Yeah.
And again, like I really did, like, you know, focusing in was, I think, beneficial for me.
Yeah. Go ahead and bring this a little closer to your mouth too. Yeah, perfect. No, yeah, that's a tough one to figure out. I feel like sometimes you're not sure where you fit in sometimes in the process. So let's do this. I want to pull up the ad again, Kiko, and I just want to maybe go with like halfway through, Kiko, and can you just give us a breakdown of where this was in Purple's kind of like, I guess, growth? Because I assume this is the one with the Sasquatch. I assume this was later on, right?
This was actually fairly
early.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this was probably still within the first year that I was there.
Oh, okay. Wow. Because it's an interesting approach to it, and maybe just play it silently. Yeah, because this is not just like a regular commercial. You guys really have like a scientific approach to some of these as well. So I think I want to dive into that after we view a little bit of it.
Which is why I got the Purple Mattress Protector.
What's also interesting is this is a mattress protector commercial, but it sold more mattresses than
The protectors.
than almost any of our other commercials.
Oh, really?
Or the first year of my marriage. A mattress protector that ruins the feel of your mattress makes about as much sense as my husband's conspiracy theories. The Purple Protector is strange.
Where do you get these Sasquatch costumes? Do you have a secret for this?
We had a really good makeup artist, and she would have to come put it on. So the guy in the suit, Mama Sasquatch, is actually a friend of mine who I've used on other spots. His name's Noah Kershiznik. And yeah, we would hire him to come to like Purple's Christmas parties.
No
and-
kidding.
Yeah, and like
Dress like that?
different events. Yeah, dress like this. There's also a Christmas Sasquatch video that it was just seasonal, so they must have hit it at some point in time. But it was also really funny, where he like kidnapped a camper and had this camper in his house, and he had a bunch of purple stuff. But
And as any parent knows, the most important part of a mattress protector is protecting against stains and moisture. My little guy's pretty good when he's awake, but
Pretty
nighttime
good.
is a toss-up, and that's okay. Accidents happen.
Like,
No more mystery stains on your nice mattress.
all right, Kiko, we can pause it.
Protector is waterproof,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is very entertaining.
yeah,
Number one. And
It's just impressive to be able to hold someone's attention for that long.
I know.
Yeah.
That was kind of the surprising thing that we found that we were able to do. You know.
yeah.
We had commercials that were like 5-6 minutes sometimes, and we would look at the watch time, and it would be like YouTube even would come out and be like, they came out and they were like looking at our analytics, and they were like, we have some advice for you. We think you guys should keep on doing weird animals, and you know, they're like that works better than any of our other
Really?
brands we work with. Like, and we were like, yeah, well, we can see it's working. Thanks, YouTube, for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
flying all the way out here and they're
Tell
like,
us that.
yeah.
Was that so? If this was so early on, I mean, you're going from working on projects that are fairly low budget, and now you have budget and you have crew. Is that kind of an intimidating part of the process?
Yeah, we did bring in people that were like crew that we trusted, you know,
Yeah.
like production teams that we really trusted. So, but yeah, it was intimidating. Initially, some of the ideas that we had surrounding the Sasquatch, there was another writer involved, and he wrote this whole thing, and he was writing it in Sasquatch language. So the initial script that we had was essentially it was going to all be dubbed over, or not even dubbed over, just like like text on the
Yeah,
screen,
yeah,
as if
yeah.
you're watching a documentary.
Wow, interesting.
And so they brought that to us, and we were like, no. And they were like, it'll be so funny. It's going to be so crazy. And it probably would have been, but we just knew we had to be funny and crazy.
Yeah.
And also at the end of the day, we had to sell some mattresses.
Yeah.
We had to get some
Yeah.
mattresses out the door.
Yeah.
So we kind of took it back over a little bit, and we were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And, you know, as we went through the process, what's funny is, and I don't know if we want to get into it later, but kind of that modular iterative process
yeah, definitely.
of writing out our scripts. The one that worked the best was Mama Sasquatch talking about like the most mundane thing of all time. Did you note that the wrong mattress protector?
she's,
You know,
like,
while
yeah.
she's smacking,
Speaking
and
out of
that was also my idea. I was like, what if we give her a squirrel? So she's
Was
like,
it a squirrel?
so she's saying the most mundane thing of all time, and she's beating, and you can hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, not in this environment, but you can hear it going. "Rah!" like as she's beating it, and then she throws it to her child to eat. But yeah, so
that's gold.
it was
That's
just that juxtaposition of like weirdness while we're just talking about mattress protectors and mattress stuff, and that's kind of like what I try to do. Like we tried other things. We tried just being crazy, right? We had some ads that were just like kind of out there, and were funny, but they didn't really do the same thing. There wasn't that juxtaposition of, okay, we're in this weird space, or it's a weird character, and they're just talking about mattresses, and that it seems like that's really what was kind of the secret to making it work. So we started writing that way. We started writing to where we weren't just writing for the jokes. The jokes were the space. The jokes were the characters, and whatever their real world was in relation to whatever the product was. And that's funnier.
That is a big difference.
That's beautiful.
It's a lot funnier that way.
Yeah.
You're not trying to shoehorn, whatever the joke is that's not related. So
you're not pushing. You're not pushing a like a point where laugh here. The whole thing is supposed to. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about it as like you could give that script and film a mom in her house. and it would work. Could. But you guys took that and just put Sasquatch in there.
And so that's kind of a way I liked. I mean, I'm always trying to think, like, how does the character truly relate back? And the idea for this was, like, there's nothing dirtier than a Sasquatch, trying to sleep in a forest, right?
Okay.
So that was kind of the
Sasquatch
idea.
Okay.
It's a mattress protector at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So she's got this dirty child, and she's just trying to keep her mattress clean. So we just thought that was funny.
I was wondering, like, where did the Sasquatch idea come from? Because Dr. Squatch after that, because it was like, so that was literally
Dr. Squatch was probably just like, wow, they sold a lot of mattresses with a Sasquatch. We're just gonna make our whole brand Sasquatch and be real successful. So that was kind of the idea.
Okay.
We had a lot. I mean, there was one that never aired, and maybe I'll get in trouble for. I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying this, but it was a seat cushion commercial, and again, so the main protagonist was
Purple had their little squares for like cars.
Yeah, they had like seat cushions for cars or your office or whatever.
Yep.
And so we did this whole commercial where it was like a truck driver, and so like that's a person that's going to be sitting a lot, right? And he gets abducted by aliens, and they, like he's driving out, he's like, it was I sit on my butt a lot, as he's driving down the road. And, then, light shoots down from the sky, and he comes out and he's like looking up through the rain, and he gets abducted from like this laser beam, and it like pulls him up by his butt. And it was just the funniest, like,
how far down production of the skit?
We
the storyboards,
finished it. We shot it. We finished it. We edited it. We had it all done. We had like these crazy little like half real puppet, half CG aliens that were in there. But it got nixed at the last second just because, it was just like internal feelings. There were just like a couple people that were like, is it appropriate?
I bet you it would run real well now.
I think it would. I think it would
bring
killed
it back up.
then, but anyway, yeah. So like we just try and write for like, write for the, bringing the product into like a real world situation that's still kind of like out there,
a real world situation,
like a truck driver getting abducted. But you know what I mean?
Something
like,
grounding to it.
Yeah. At least grounding it to some sort of of an actual truth, right? So mattress protector, Sasquatch is dirty, truck driver sits a lot, aliens. That was just having a good time. I was just having a good time. But yeah, so.
Yeah. So through, let's say with that ad, you had a writer originally write that ad and then pass it on to you, and then you
so
rewrote it?
we had the idea internally to do that ad, and somebody wanted to take a swing
the
at writing
Sasquatch one
it.
we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, and we kind of started to learn, like when we were bringing in some other people to help us, that we needed to do a lot of hand holding because not many people were super familiar with this style of script writing and conversion based video. And so we had some initial people kind of trying to run with it, and then we kind of like took it took it over and just like made sure that it was doing what we wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And it was good that we did, because it just wasn't going to work,
Yeah.
the other way. So
Yeah. How was that pitching that concept before?
surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
I mean, just because we had been, I was internal, so
Yeah.
it was kind of, my purview there.
Because I mean, from the company's perspective, that's a big risk, no matter what you're putting out, especially with things like that, where it's like you're shaping what the company's going to look like to the public from that point, right? So it's a big decision on their part.
It is. What I would actually say is most companies are halted from success by being super risk averse. And, 'cause, again, like we were saying with like the skincare stuff and like the typical mattress commercial, like we've all seen it before. We've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
And you have these, you have brand people that come in and they think that brand is one thing. Like your company's brand look and feel has to be very tight. Not all brand people, but a lot. Like this is kind of your guidelines for what your brand looks like, and it has to be represented in video and print and website and all these things. And then you have, people who are a little bit more on like the performance side. So people, and it's kind of a little bit newer, but not super new. But it's a different space with social media.
Yeah.
And so you got the performance side, and they're like, we need stuff that like actually converts, gets people to stop in their tracks and take a look at this video, because we're dumping all this money into it. And if it's not stopping people, if it's not like grabbing their attention, then and so you kind of have to marry the two in kind of an interesting, weird way, and get people to be okay with it. But we did have a lot of people on the brand side that they didn't like Sasquatch.
What is this going to do to our brand? We're not a Sasquatch.
Well, right.
Yeah, like we're not the Sasquatch brand. We're not the Goldilocks brand. Like we need to start moving into. And
what are we, Jack Links?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, if you look at Purple's performance as a company, since they stopped doing, because they started hiring much bigger agencies. Once, they got a lot of new brand people, some that had come from American Eagle and Nike and all these other spaces. And they were like, we're going to clean this baby up. We're going to polish it up and make it look like Apple. And when they started doing that, their attention just plummeted.
Do you think there's something to do with the era we are in of, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like a polished brand maybe 15, 20, 35 years ago was something that kind of every company wanted. But we are in an age of kind of authenticity and this ruggedness that people enjoy ads like that, where it doesn't feel like this conglomeration put it together. I mean, Apple ads are awesome, right? But the things that Steve Jobs did. But nowadays, a lot of these ads are that perform well and are accepted by the public, just they have a different feeling to them. They don't feel as structured, or maybe that's not even the word, but maybe you can explain it better.
So the way that I like to think about it when I was making any ad or writing these ads, or even the way that I would make my characters speak in the ads, is I wanted it to feel, when somebody watched it, like it was made by a human. Like that they could hear a voice through it that was like a voice that they would think is cool.
Not a committee.
Not a committee.
Yes.
And that's the problem that you have a lot, is like, you get the bigger a company grows, unfortunately, the more people want to be involved in those kinds of like outward facing processes. And so you end up, even if you didn't want to, you end up having a committee.
VP
Just 'cause
of
everybody-
whatever
exactly.
wanted to have his thumbprint on it, so we got to put this in there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the people want us to feel human. They want it to feel like it was made by a human. It's not like there's some risks that you take, and there's some one-liners that you might be like, I think this is pretty funny, but I think this is funny, but and it's kind of like those one-liners are the things that people, or those like those weird moments, whatever it is, that people are like, I can't believe they put this in an ad. And I think that's really what stops people is like,
Yeah.
they're like, I can't believe they put this in an ad. And when they feel that way, they're like,
Then they're like, did
That's
I just see
kinda
that?
cool.
Then they watch it
Yeah.
again.
yeah, they're like, that's kind of cool.
And
That's
they
kind
send
of,
it to their friend. Did you see this?
yeah, yeah.
Well, we had our friend Tom here. He is cam op and he works on the shows out in Chicago. But he did some local commercials back like 10 years ago or something like that. And he took a risk in writing the commercials, a 30-second spot for. Do you remember what the ad was?
What one was for like a kind of appliance shop and
Yeah,
that one or
yeah. But the script was a little risque. And a little suggestive.
every one of the commercials you did with them was like
Yeah, but they're funny. They're
This
actually
local,
very
like appliance resale shop was
Yeah.
like all about it and
yeah. I mean, just a local mom and pop place, right? And so he did this commercial for nothing really, but he just wanted to do a good job. But he had people call the company and say, "You need to take this ad down," and because we don't like it, they didn't take it down. And the ad did very well.
Their
And
sales
it was like they
shot through
took
the
that.
roof.
Yeah, their sales went way up, all because of that ad. And it was just like the risk was worth it for them, and they're like,
Totally.
"Why not? Let's just do it." And it paid off long
Yeah.
term. So, that's on a small level. I don't. With a bigger company, it might be a little bit of a harder of a risk.
I mean, it depends on the risk you're taking, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're
right.
risking being like,
alienating 90%
yeah,
of the
yeah, or like being like specifically
Yeah.
outwardly racist, for example. Like maybe that's not the tack to take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, Bud Light just had their pivot too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've completely went 180 degrees, I feel like, on their the campaign. And then I think they changed back. Now Shane Gillis, I think, is kind of their spokesperson in a way. The
Is he?
comedian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I love Shane.
Yeah,
funny.
he's hilarious, but I think he's kind of one of their spokespeople now,
Yeah.
which is completely the opposite direction where they were. So it's an interesting, interesting study in that. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, but I think I had a boss that said like progress isn't made by being safe. It's made on the fringes. It's like made it's made it's made in the areas where you can take risks. And I 100% like believe that. I mean, it sounds like whatever this ad was, it did alienate some people, but that creates a conversation, and that conversation creates interest, and there will be fans that will now want to stick up for you more because of that conversation, and so we had ads where people were like, this is the dumbest crap I've ever seen, and then people were like our fanboys and girls. They were like getting on those people, and they're like I'm gonna come to your house.
Yeah.
If you talk about Purple, like it was like weird. It's like a mattress company, like stop defending it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that you've got to make some enemies in order to be interesting and progress.
Yeah. So it wasn't a super hard sell for some of the people.
No, luckily the owner the owner Tony Pierce and the Pierce brothers, they were surprisingly willing to just do some wacky stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And honestly, like if you're the kind of company, because we don't, as creators, we don't get that many opportunities to do like something that we truly think is fun, you know? And so, if you're the kind of company that is like, I will let you take some risks and do like, I'll work for cheaper, than somebody who just wants me to like film somebody blow drying their hair in slow motion.
Good real shots, but that's about it.
And they were that way. They were just so okay with failure, honestly. Like they were so okay with the possibility of failure that it felt reassuring to take those risks. And I think, and I think I enjoy working for people like that. Like it's not like, it didn't feel like they were looking me dead in the eyes and they're like, the whole thing is riding on this one. It was like, if it fails, we learned.
Give it a shot.
We give it a shot, and if it does really well, we learned, and we'll benefit from that. And so they were really good to work for.
What an opportunity!
From my perspective.
That's amazing, honestly, because that's not a lot that you don't get opportunities like that every day.
No.
You know, and so that's why you did decide to go full time with them and work internally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would too. I always say I'm like, I want to work for myself, but if you are given that opportunity and just to
that much freedom,
just like, go do your thing. Like, why not?
For sure.
Did
But
you
you've
have
had
something to say?
success outside of Purple as well. Like you're a freelance writer, director, mainly now, correct? And
and so I've had a lot of other very like successful clients, both on the Kickstarter side. We work with bigger budgets now, but also
we don't want to leave that taste in your mouth. Scott is not working for $400.
Yeah, that's not where I'm at now.
That's why we have them here.
But yeah, just did some stuff with a company, really cool company called Oslo Sleep, and honestly, I feel the same buzz and like vibe, like potential with these guys that I felt with Purple. It's they're essentially like they're sleep buds, headphones for sleep, and we just did a Kickstarter for them, and they want to do some wacky stuff. They want to like take some risks, and their CEO is very much like a risk taker. So and pretty much said
they
the
say
same
there's
thing.
no reward without risk, so maybe that's something people need to sink into a little bit more. Like, take some more risk.
100%. Yeah, like especially on the brand side, like everybody does want to be so safe, and I feel like what super safe, especially in the ad space, like what super safe piece of content have you ever seen where you were like, now that was so safe,
I'm
and
gonna
so
buy me one.
bland and so generic that I'm gonna pick me up one of those sedans. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited about working with those guys.
Well, that's there's another commercial. So you don't only write comedy as well. I mean, you do a lot of comedy, but there's another ad that Kiko, can you pull up the website?
Slant video.
Yeah, Slant Video. There's an ad that you did that was, I think it was like black and white. A part of it. It was like a more serious tone.
Possibly.
And
Is it the Casper one? I don't remember what was.
No.
I've made a lot of
Slant
videos in my
video.
life.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's hard. It's anyway, I was just watching it this morning, but I guess keep scrolling down. Keep going. Yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
3. I thought this was interesting too, and it was like it didn't. I mean, I love the filming style. By the way, it's just it was filmed like nostalgia almost. So, like, how do you approach the differences between
Are
comedy
looking for
and
a life of meaning and significance?
I mean, very different.
Yeah, it is very different.
I
We've
don't
done
know. It
some other
kind of
stuff.
seems about the same to me.
See, this is
I can see
this is
Sasquatch
my
doing that.
this is
Yeah.
the stuff I love. I'm like a drama guy, so this is I would love
We've
to
done
do
some
something like this.
stuff too. But I mean, I've done everything, right? So like
Yeah.
I've done everything from like super serious commercial work to like I evolved into comedy for sure. Like over
Oh,
the
really?
years. Like yeah.
Do you prefer-
most people, especially early on, weren't looking for like a specifically comedic, Kickstarter. So
Yeah.
they were pretty informational, pretty just like dramatic
Yeah.
shots of whatever the problem was.
Oh, sure. Yep.
But yeah, so I don't do a lot of that now,
Yeah.
but from time to time,
Is
I gotta pay
it?
the bills. So.
Yeah. No, definitely. But I just it's such a different style and approach. I feel like.
So I work with a really cool team of like really amazing cinematographers. They're called The Fold. And when I have something that is more that vibe,
Are they in Utah?
they're in Utah.
That sounds
And
vaguely
they've done
familiar.
some really cool stuff. They've
Okay.
done some like cool spec work for like Reebok and some like really cool work for, I think it was Jeep, I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, they're just super talented.
Are they on YouTube? I assume. Like, channel.
They don't have they probably have a YouTube channel, but they have a website. It's I think
Okay.
One of the Fold.
Okay.
And so they were like, they're just like when I need to lean on somebody for something beautiful. I would say also that Casper, the Casper spot that's on there is more. I
Yes.
use them. It's
Yeah.
more that like it's pretty shots. It's kind of like
Yes.
moving the camera with the bed as
Same
it comes
tone.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that was a tangent, but I do. There's so many questions I do want to ask you, Scott. But let's go back to Purple, and I want to touch on the unique thing that you did there is that you kind of A/B tested a lot of different ads, and most people think an ad is you have a concept, you write it out. You get a team together, you edit it, or you edit it and you put it out, which is that. But then what you guys did was just another step or 4.
Yeah.
So can you kind of give the process
10.
or 10? Yeah.
So
A through Z.
So a really integral strategy that we took to creating any of our outward facing creative at Purple was to ensure success as best as we could. We would workshop the first 5 to 10 seconds of every spot in the pre-production phase. So we would go into a shoot. We would already decide, okay, we really think maybe the Sasquatch thing is a good idea. So we're going to live in that world, right? But as we'd go through the scripting phase, we'd say, we're going to do a version where she says, we're going to talk about the warranty of your mattress. Did you know that you can lose your mattress warranty, by not using a mattress protector or something like that? We're going to do a crazy one, but we would hit on different topics that we would in the pre-production phase kind of guess would be topics that people would be interested in. And we would script all of those out and we would shoot all of those. And then in post, we would edit all of those. So we would have 20 exports of the same video with different front end on each one of them. So different 10 seconds. So we could test those hooks and see what people responded to. And then, we would work with our ad spend team and they would put a little bit of money behind each of them. And we would see what the people, like actual viewers, how they responded.
Yeah.
Did they
Now,
go
is this
click
on
to the website?
YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, all of them?
We would test a lot of them on YouTube and Facebook initially because you're able to do kind of like a
all ages.
a hidden post. So it's not public.
Yeah.
But like people can go type and say like, Sasquatch ad, but it's they're still being served that ad as like a pre-roll. So we would see how people would respond, and then we would take the one that performed the best and we would push that one live, or we would take the one that performed the best and we would iterate on that. We would take that back to post if we had time, and we might iterate on that. Like, okay, wow, this one really did a good job, but I think we can tighten it maybe. And we do little things like add a little call to action in the middle of the video rather than just at the very end, so people didn't have to wait because they're kind of long. 4 minutes to get to that. So we test all these different things to really kind of come to like a really successful point.
Yeah.
For every video.
That's such an interesting method. And was that going on in other companies before, or was this?
I'm sure other companies were doing similar things. It was seen as pretty rare in from what we heard from Facebook, because we got a I don't want to say we invented it, but we certainly
You're one of the pioneers, really.
I don't want to say that we're the pioneers,
I
but
said
we
it so you
are
don't
the
have
pioneers. No. But yeah, in talking with Facebook and YouTube, because we did have a close relationship, with our Facebook and YouTube reps, they would fly us out and they would I remember they sent me to go talk to Uber one time, the Uber kind of ad execs and like creative departments, and talk about how we see video and kind of that modular approach. And they were like blown away. They were like, and that's like, that's Uber. You would think that they, and again, a lot of other agencies I've worked with, they're like, why would we film 5 different intros? We're not going to do that. And
we've written the perfect one.
Yeah. In fact, and at Purple, we had to reject some agencies because they wouldn't work with us on that. So like they would come pitch to us because they wanted to work with us. And they were like, we've already done the perfect concept, it's, and we'd be like, well, that's great, but this is why we're successful, is because we do it like this. And, if you want to work with us, then please. Just, it was seen as pretty rare. I think more companies probably do it now, but it still
Oh, I'm
seems to
sure.
be, you know,
Not the standard. I mean,
not the standard. Yeah.
if that's a lot of budget that you're also using up, you know, for
Can be.
yeah. I mean, if you're shooting 5, 6, how many different intros?
For some, like, 10, 15.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, an extra day too of production.
Yeah. And it wasn't just that. We would also we would look for, because of course you can't just have one giant 4-minute video and that's all you put out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we would also think about our scripting as almost like these modular pods. Like, okay, we're going to be talking about cooling in this, like for mattresses, for
You're
example.
almost building a
Cooling.
universe.
Yeah.
And
And so we're like, okay, for the cooling segment, we're going to do its own little intro, right? And then that's a 15-second spot. And then we would have all these pieces broken up. And in the way that we would kind of build out that cadence just became natural in the script writing process. Like, okay, we hit on this, we move to this room, we do this, we move to this space. And it became, it's just really easy to take those pieces and create like the little world of
You
content.
shot all these little assets that you can kind of
yeah,
move around and put together. And
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's a great.
would you, if you were to just say there was like maybe a percentage of the budget that went toward those iterations, would you say there's like something you could put your thumb on there?
Honestly, so we were only on very few ads would I say that it really, really affected the budget, except for in post, but
Yeah.
because it does take
that's-
time. It's
yeah.
time. But we were just really smart about making sure that we could just throw it in. So we just had somebody who was just, a scripty, and they'd say, okay, now say this. And then they'd be like,
So
did
it wasn't
you know? They say the next
necessarily
line.
that you were creating entirely new scenes or
Not every time.
scenarios. A
No,
lot of it could have
we
fit
did
the
do
wording.
that sometimes, but like I said, there was that example. We had this big science video, and it was shot in this big, huge warehouse, and there was like cool lights and LED lights, and it was all practical. It was really kind of a fun space. And we had a version of one of the intros was just the scientist walking briskly through, and he's like, says something like, does your mattress pass the egg test? Ready, Billy? And he pushes a button, and the guy's like, no. And then he like drops, right? But we had a version of that where our main scientist dude, who's a big guy, his name is Jake Van Wagner, tall guy, big beard, funny dude. He's dressed up as Goldilocks. He's dressed in like a dress, and he's got a curly wig on, and it's just his back facing the camera, and he's like pushing on the mattress, and then he turns around, and he's like, I'm not Goldilocks, and rips off his thing, and then the whole thing gets bulldozed. That was an expensive alternate intro that didn't end up getting used, so
the cutting room
nobody's seen
floor.
that out there. They're all
Yeah.
like, what is he talking about? But it's good. I mean, that ad actually
Yeah.
won YouTube ad of the year.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
So I'm glad we shot the other iterations, because it probably might not have.
Yeah.
If it was all the Goldilocks intro, it might not have worked out. So.
Yeah.
I
And
secretly want to see it, but
I know.
I guess it's not a secret now. But
Yeah, I
I
know.
wanna see it.
Dude, I wish I could get. Honestly, I wish I could get my hands on like all those like old Purple hard drives, because
Yeah.
there were just so many little clips
have you ever
and
considered
iterations.
maybe organizing a heist where you just like go in?
I know exactly where to go. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that this method. We were talking with Ben, Josiah's business partner, earlier, and Ben had a good point to where he said this. I mean, they've been doing this in Disney and in movies for
Yeah.
a long time.
Pixar.
Yeah, Pixar especially. But I mean, in every movie they do screen tests, to see how well it's performing, and where the audience is, if they're happy, if we're at a happy part, if they laugh at a comedic part, So it is the scientific approach has been kind of in movies for a long
sure.
time, and the fact that in ads it's not kind of caught on sooner is kind of surprising.
It is. We have such crazy analytics these days. So we would actually go through our ads. This is not something we've kind of fully touched on, but we'd go through the ads, and you can see the moment people drop off.
Mm-hmm.
So we found there was like one of our ads, I don't remember which one, but there was just one singular moment, like dang, we just lose everybody right there. And it was just one joke that people were just like, not for me. Like it was just like,
Really?
it was a lull, or there was something there. It was just like this little moment that people were just like, I've seen enough now. And so we cut that one little line out, and we increased, we increased
Wow.
That's
the
impressive.
efficiency of
Wow.
that particular ad. So, I think it's just being willing to iterate, and being willing to accept when you're wrong, hoping that, people will support you taking risks
Yeah.
and doing stuff. So yeah.
And not having ego, I'm sure, because if you're writing something and you're like, this is gonna freaking work, watch, and then it's that plummet point, you're like, well, shoot, you gotta be.
Yeah.
Well, that's just because people are idiots.
Yeah.
They don't understand my genius.
The art.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's more. Is there anything that you want to touch on in that part of it? Because I do have another question, but is there anything
I
that
have
I'm
another
missing
question too. So
on the scientific side? I'm referring to a scientific side just because, the creative is the writing part, the coming up with ideas, planning it. And then there's the analytics, and then to me that I go, oh, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. No, I think we can move on.
Okay. So what was your question?
Well, maybe it's a bit of a broad idea, but so you were just talking about earlier how you were basically grip, PA, whatever on these things going on with your dad, and then you were working on the Subaru commercial. I thought it was kind of an interesting point for you, at least in my mind, where you're just looking around, you're just seeing all this waste. Maybe they've got lobster for lunch, or you're just like, what's going on here? Like, why are these dollars are not ending up on the screen? But yet at the same time, you're not at the point where you're producing these things for a few $1,000s either. Like budgetarily, you're like what, 7,500? Was that kind of what's kind of the budget range that you've kind of found as the sweet spot where you don't feel like you're wasting money away like Subaru was, but you're also not like calling in favors from all your friends to make these things happen.
Are you saying like the overall budget for a commercial?
Yeah,
or,
kind of
or like what I make.
No.
Do you want to know how much money I have?
Yeah.
How much money do you get to cash it? No,
or are you talking about at that point?
No, the budget. Yeah, like because it's interesting that you've. I mean, I guess we don't. No one really starts at the top, but you've really kind of worked up to you've done all of it. It sounds like starting with the real scrappy stuff, and then you've worked with some reasonable budgets. You've also worked in a small part on some big projects where they're just wasting money everywhere.
Yeah,
but you've kind of found this middle ground, maybe. Like where you feel like
I would say I'm very much in the middle ground. I would say the companies I've worked for have had major successes with. And again, it's all a collaboration. Like I don't want to ever pretend like it's all me. Like I have found just good people to work with. I have really good people that I pull on projects that like we're all close. Like we're all like but yeah, like I would say I'm just like in that middle ground area.
Yeah.
So,
There's no better day than you go either if you're writing. I mean, Josiah and I are writing a thing together, and it's like we just have an afternoon. We get together. I guess we kind of like each other, but it's just like you're working with.
That's
people.
a really weird thing to put out there.
But you're working with people that you enjoy being around.
Yeah,
that's so important. So even if it's the budget isn't there for some of the projects, you're like, well, at least it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah,
I'm not a writer, by the way.
You're not.
No.
Josiah is more creative than he leads on. I will say that. You are. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing about the whole process is having a really fun concept and you get to work with really talented on-screen actors and everything else is going to be good. Your DP's good, you've got everything organized and it's all ready to go. And then you just have fun.
Yeah.
Like you've got your first AD moving along, guys, you had enough fun on this setup. We got to move to the next one. It's like, okay.
I want to see the red light blinking.
But it's so fun. And I've also been on, before I got into commercial shooting, I was a sound guy for a very low budget production, a film called Orcs. It was a full length film shot in Utah. It was my first
Lord
ever
of the Rings based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings orcs. They come out of a cave on a national park and they terrorize the town. And
I'm actually very interested.
you should go look it up. That one and another one called Vamp U. Two back to back. I had never been a sound guy.
Dude, I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd.
Yeah.
I love Lord of the Rings.
I never
gonna
been
check
a-
'em out.
Yeah, go check it out. I've never been a sound guy, and I'm sitting here with this like archaic like mixing
Mixer.
box, and I'm booming. I'm putting mics on people, and I'm like, I've never done this. Do they know I don't know how to do this?
Wow.
And but I figured it out. You know,
Yeah.
I figured it out as we went along. But
So there's sound
but
halfway
they
through
were
the
big,
movie.
They were, yeah, as it went along, about 3/4 of the way. No, I took a lot of time at home before to
Yeah.
make sure I was ready, but it was still very overwhelming because
we've
it was
all
like,
been there,
it was like 2 weeks of production. It was like we were working 16-hour days.
Jeez.
And we were out in the cold. It was crazy. But we worked on set with this guy who flew in from LA, and he's like, I worked with Johnny Depp, and I did this, and I did, and he was, and these were pretty big productions for a small budget. You know, they were like $500,000 shoots.
Wow.
And he just came in and just made everybody miserable the entire time. He was one of the producers, and he was just so like he just made something that could be so fun feel so awful, just the way he treated everyone.
Yeah.
So I kind of like made a mental note, like if I ever get into a space where I'm doing this, and like I just want to make sure everybody is just like taken care of.
Yeah.
And like has a good time, you
Yeah.
know, because it can be such a fun space to work in.
Yeah.
When everybody's having fun.
I mean, I had a director very, very early on, my first film that I was a part of, and I was just an extra. And this guy, the director, out of the 30, 40 person crew, actors on top of that, he would, in the middle of the day, he would go and talk with me for like 3 minutes while the crew, we're changing angles. I'm standing here, and like just shy, don't know anybody. And he would come over and talk to me like I was somebody. Dude, I never will forget that. No matter like the guy to me was ultra successful. I mean, it was like $1 million film, so it's not a huge deal, not a really well-known director, but that stuck out to me. And I'm like, for the rest of my life, I want to be that, because it makes you feel so good, to be nobody and then be noticed by somebody.
What sucks is that even has to be memorable. That's what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're
because like we all came from somewhere, right? We all came from like, like unless you're a Nepo baby or something, I guess like maybe you feel,
Yeah.
But like I do, that's awesome. Like I try to get to set and like I try to like remember everybody's, like go meet everybody, hang out with them, joke with them.
Yeah.
Like there is a weird dynamic that can be on sets. And one thing I've always heard, and my friend was on another podcast. He's an actor, and he brought up, somebody was like, "You were on some Purple ads," and he was like, Scott was so fun, and I was like so like thrilled that he felt that way.
Yeah.
Like to hear it
that's
from
what you
like.
want.
Because you don't always know. You're like, I hope it was good. I hope everyone was having a good time. But it is hard. It is work. So
Yeah.
But I've heard that a few times. Like Scott's sets are just like they're fun, and I don't want it to just be fun and games. Like we got a job to do, but I do think that having fun at your job produces
better results.
Better results.
Oh,
So
I mean, this is such a creative industry, obviously. Like it can't be kind of this corporate white collar, like boxed in thing. It has to be a little bit of fun. You have to be like willing. If you're an actor and you're in a dead space, you're not going to be able to take a risk on a line, you know, and say something a different way. If everything's free flowing and, jovial, you have that opportunity, I think. And throughout the rest of the crew as well with ideas, whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's such an important part. And that's, we have such a great crew here. The people at the studio I always say that, but
Yeah,
truly,
it seems like a cool group of
It
people
is.
and in a beautiful space.
Yes,
Yeah.
we fooled them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
No.
wrap up the podcast
Yeah.
there. Now we got
We
the
just-
line
This was all
we
a
wanted.
sales
Put that in the can.
No, okay.
We should probably wrap this up.
We
though,
should wrap
because-
up. I do want to ask you about. Oh my gosh, there were so many points that I wanted to touch on as we go on, because I love writing. When I was a kid, I wrote a feature film when I was probably 12 to like 16, and I filmed it. And I remember loving nothing more than going up in my bedroom, jumping on my computer, and being lost in a world. You know, and creating these characters and creating a backstory behind them. And although this is commercial stuff, what is your process?
I'm sure Mother Sasquatch had a whole backstory that you wrote out.
Yeah.
So much backstory. Everything has so much backstory.
But writing is one of these
Yeah.
interesting things where, like, sometimes writer's block is real. Sometimes you don't have the creative ideas that you hoped for on a certain day. Sometimes you feel way more inspired. So I'm just curious, as we wrap up, is what's your writing process like? And when you do hit those walls of like, oh, dang, I don't know where to go with this, how do you get out of those?
So for me, and I think writing, for the passion of writing, is different, right? Like writing something that you're like truly creatively excited about versus maybe sometimes like I've got to write some ads for somebody
That's going to sell this thing.
that's going to sell this thing.
It's more discipline in that sense.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I put it this. I think it's on my LinkedIn bio. That being good at marketing is not my passion; it's my curse.
I saw that, yeah.
And I think that I do just kind of have like a mind for thinking of fun ways to talk about, like, as dumb as it is, like it's just been part of what I've been doing for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do get writer's block, and for me, it literally is just getting out of my house, going anywhere with whatever tool I'm going to write on, and just getting the distractions away. And it might just be like laying down and just looking at the ceiling and waiting for those moments of like inspiration to come through, and then just latching onto it and immediately latching onto it and writing it down and thinking about how that relates and what's the world. And because, it's like once in a while you just get these really good moments. And for me, it's often while I'm driving. So I'll turn off.
yeah.
If I know I have some projects that I need to concept for or write for, it's usually for me the concept, the initial concepts that are more difficult. Once I'm in a writing flow, like for an actual script, it kind of like comes, and then I can go
really?
back and just
Interesting.
kind of like iterate and go back and forth on it. But it's getting that initial golden idea that I think is really difficult. Like, what's the world that this product lives in? Who are the characters? What's the theme? What's the thing people are gonna like really latch onto? It kind of feels like if you've ever seen the show Mad Men, about the ad writer guy in the 1950s, where he's just sitting there and just that one word comes to him and he's just like, that's the word. That's sometimes kind of how I feel. Like, it's just like one little thing sticks out and I'm like, that's it. And it's hard to find that for me. Like, it's hard to find that concept. Once I have it, it's a little bit easier to start to like, it's just kind of like building anything. It's like you start building a little here. I need an intro line, and then I can go back and refine. But so that's it for me. It's just distractions aside. No podcasts in the car. I just
Really?
if
No matter where you're going?
No.
If that's the purpose of the drive.
If that's the
right.
purpose of the drive. Like, if I'm driving and I'm like I need to get out of this writer's block, I just put distractions aside and I just like put myself in like an autonomous state. Like, I'm just like driving, or I'm just in the shower, and like things just happen. They just come. But
That's funny you say that.
I
'cause
just have to do that.
I was just thinking that on the drive here today. It was like, I don't think enough people take that time to be completely alone with themselves and their thoughts. And not only does that like kind of inspire the creativity, but also just the deep thoughts, and you can work out ideas in your head. I think we're so distracted by so many things
constantly.
all the time, all the moving pieces in life, but then also we got podcasts, we got music, we got whatever. So that's an interesting.
Purple Mattress ads invading our
Yeah,
lives.
Yeah.
just constantly popping up in our faces.
Interest. So, does it become hard to get this? You're writing for creativity, but then you're also writing for a goal to sell a product. Is it hard to combine those two? And because you can't be just all creativity, you have to fit it into like this mold, into a framework of what a company needs and what
Yeah.
a company needs to say. Is that a difficult process to combine those two?
I would say if you have that, like if you have the right like world, right? Like that little initial conceptual world, it's actually pretty easy. For me, it feels that way. Like if I'm trying to write, if I'm trying to shoehorn, for example, I'm gonna like, I want to do something with aliens. I'm gonna bring aliens into whatever stupid ad I'm writing, product I'm writing an ad for. Then I think it's hard because you're like, what is this? It doesn't really have. I'm just trying to do something with aliens. And it's not really for the, But if
Forcing it.
you're forcing it, and so, I think if I have the right space, then like in the right characters in the right space, then it all just kind of comes together. You're like, oh, of course, this is what they're they're gonna do, or this is what they're gonna say. And honestly, for me, it's just been practice. Like I wasn't as good. Like I look back at my old stuff and I'm like, damn, that's garbage. Like,
Yeah.
like I can't believe I did that. Like it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I hide it. I hide it from the internet, and I pay people a lot of money to hide that.
Make sure this never comes up again.
Yeah. But no, it's just practice. Just like anything else. Like you just kind of refine your thing over time. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've just been refining writing commercials. So like, I mean, it is. It is
you
what
need
it
to
is.
write a bunch of bad ads before you can write good ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Get through
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my filming wasn't good either at first. Like, I used to film everything, and I like go back and look at stuff. Like even, when I worked at the first agency I ever worked for, it was called Fit Marketing, and I go back and look at this stuff. Like they entrusted me with at the time it was like the new Blackmagic camera, and I had no clue what I was really doing. It was a good learning experience because it's like shoots raw and all that stuff. But I was like, I flew to China. They flew me to China to film something
kidding.
for the Chinese government, and I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, it ended up being fine, but
Wow.
You sound like you're
but I
really
looked-
good fake it till you make it sort of guy.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I mean, just compared to now, I go back and look at that. I'm like, I was like 21, and I was like, I can't believe they took me out there to do. But like, so you evolve, you get better over time, and it's just like practicing the guitar, playing piano. It's just something that you just kind of learn as you go.
There's so many other things I would love to touch on, and hopefully you'll be back soon.
Yeah, I
and
think
hopefully
so.
we can do this again, because the writing process is something to me that I definitely, it's a lot of narrative stuff that I want to do, and a friend of mine and we do films together, so we're actually writing a movie right now. So it's like,
Cool.
it's fresh in my mind, trying to get up to speed, back into writing, get that muscle exercising. But what do you think makes what do you think some of the characteristics that make a good writer? Like what is it that you need to be in order to have writing that's kind of unique or out of the box? Do you have to be an introspective person? Does anything like that stick out to you? Some of the writers that you've worked with and yourself?
I think that, what was that?
This is the last question, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's like,
I know.
One said.
Oh, is he? Okay.
I'm sure he's happy that we
I
threw
don't
that
know.
out there too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I feel like what makes me feel like I think it's somebody who can like who's got some imagination, enough to put themselves into the world of their their character, and to say like, and to just sit in a room, because you don't have the luxury of like I'm gonna go be the character, like you're just in your room or you're in a
Yeah.
coffee shop or you're like at a park or whatever, wherever you're at, and you just have to like really think about like I like to write places where I can talk to myself, for example. Like I say the lines out loud every time.
Yeah.
And so like I'll be like, everybody go downstairs, like, like go downstairs, go play downstairs. I'm going to be talking to myself. It's going to be weird for a while. And so I'll just be like walking around and I'll be doing the facial expressions and I'll be doing like the timing in my mind. And I'm thinking about like the camera framing, even just like it's going to be like this and then it's going to zoom it or whatever, and I'm just, I'm really just trying to like build it in my mind. And which is also why I like directing, because then I've already thought through how all this is going to look. And then I get to set and I'm like, I'll act out these parts with the characters. Some directors are like, you take you do it, you do your thing, and I'll let them do their thing. But like, I think the people that have worked with me a lot, they're always like, you should be an actor, dude. Like you're doing this line better than like how I'm doing, like, but they're like, it's helpful, especially people that there have been some people that were like newer to the acting world. Maybe they were a model before and then they're like doing speaking lines. And he was like, this one guy, Quinnell, super cool guy. He was just like, I learned a lot from you, actually, like your facial expressions on set and like how you're kind of like, the cadence.
Yeah, not
was
every
really
director
helpful.
works that way, and that's unique. That's cool.
So, but I think that comes from like the writing and kind of the imagination side. I'm like, dude, I've already imagined how this is gonna, and sometimes they bring something
Which
better,
is something to
and
be
I'm
said
totally
for
open
being
to
the
that.
writer and the director. And that's why it's a good 1-2 combo.
Yeah. But if you have good people, I don't want to make it sound like I'm like this, like my vision is already baked.
No.
So because sometimes there are people that are like, they bring something, I'm like, that's a good idea. I didn't even think about that. That's a good idea. And I'll take ideas from the sound guy. In fact, I do all the time. My sound guy, Brendan, by the way, shout out. Funniest dude I've ever met in my life. And all that he'll be like, dude, what if he says this? And I'll be like, we're doing it.
Spit your coffee.
Yeah.
And like, yes.
Yeah. So, because I've been on sets where, again, I was like, I have an idea, and the director's like, who are you? I don't want to listen to you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's gonna suck then. And so I want to listen to everybody, because I think everybody, sometimes people come up with an idea and I'm like, that's awesome, but I still want everyone to kind of like feel heard and seen. And
I mean, doing some acting, being an actor, it's like it does help, and I think it allows a level of freedom, and this kind of, if your director is in it as much as you are, and he's not just behind the camera, just figuring out what you're doing and watching you closely, but if he's expressive and he's in there and like showing you how to do it, like that's a much better approach, I think. And I think most directors are that way. I mean, I haven't worked with ones that are really reserved and not like that, but it like opens up an actor to be able to be like, oh, okay, I can take risks. I can goof around a little bit. I can be me and add my flavor to it. There's so many things I would love to keep talking, but we're on a time constraint.
Whelp.
Yes, whelp.
You slap your knees and you say that. That means we're actually wrapping up the conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being
guys.
here in Illinois, number one, and also jumping on the podcast. Really insightful, really fun to get an inside look at Purple, also some of the writing processes that you're a part of. I hope we can work together soon, and that you'll be back.
Will.
Good.
If you want to hire Scott,
if you want to hire me,
yes.
you can go to www.slant.video.
Slant.video.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're an Instagram guy as well, or is that a private?
It's like personal Instagram. I don't have a company Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Just a website. But you can go to slant.video and reach out to me there.
Awesome stuff too. I literally watched pretty much, I think, every ad on there. So it was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. I'm sure you did. Really cool look. We will catch you on the next one. Das vidanya.
Das vidanya.